Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Phill and Dave for another spoiler discussion. And this time we are talking about episode 10 of Andor, one of the best shows of the year already. I'm just going to start getting in, and immediately one of the highlights of today. It's a spoiler discussion. Bring up anything you want to know. But before we start commenting on that stuff, Dave and Phill, how are we both doing tonight?
Really well. It's lovely to get around another Andor day, especially I missed last week with you guys, so it's lovely to be back on with you talking this amazing show, which I just can't wait to get into this one.
Indeed, you guys know the amazing day I've had anyway, and this was the cherry on top of that. This episode was phenomenal, and I just want to crack into it and get talking because I'm really curious to see not only if you guys loved it as much as I did, but also there's certain little bits and pieces that I just think are going to be big talking points for going forward.
No, 100%. And we want to hear from everybody, so please do comment your thoughts on today's episode, the series. We've got Carl in the comments. Lovely to see you, Carl. Martin as well. Evening both. I know, Martin, you tweeted me earlier about the episode as well with Andy Serkis. We're going to talk about him. But yes, this is another weekly spoiler discussion, so please do get involved. We're loving the discussions we're having. We're loving this show. So that's an understatement, but we're really starting to see now more and more people getting into this series, people that weren't at the beginning that have been catching up and coming through. So it's going to be really interesting getting your thoughts as well. So please do comment along. And if you want to find out about our videos, what else is coming up on the channel? Obviously, we've got Andor every Wednesday. We do a lot of our announcements on social media, Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy, a link to Redbubble in the description below. There's going to be a review of a really random one on the channel this weekend. I got sent the 4K copy of War of the Worlds, the original 50s one today. So I will need to watch that and review that at some point this weekend for you all, and Black Panther, loads of other stuff. But we're here to talk Star Wars. And where we'll kickstart is we're going to come to you, Dave. So we missed you last week. I know we got you in the chat. I know you're watching it a bit later. I just want to get your thoughts on the episode and maybe the arc up until today. I'm just going to call it the prison arc. I think everyone else is going to do that moving forward.
I think it's the best way to kind of cover it. I mean, yeah, it was a shame I just couldn't get to the episode in time for you joined us last week, so I was kind of watching it while you'd actually start the show. I was in mid-watch as well. It's just the arc itself. The episode was phenomenal. I loved last week's episode. I've loved this build of the prison. I loved the way the episode ended was just phenomenal. Like that moment, the one everyone's kind of talked about, the Never More Than 12 was just a moment in itself, like a big Star Wars moment. Just, I loved it. The arc itself is going so well for me. I was really like, please don't not stick the landing to the end of this arc. Don't miss it. Don't mess it up. And boy, howdy.
Bill, and just quickly catch up with your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I mean, because I was on it with you and Sam last week as we were talking about it, and yeah, saw Dave's excited comments kept popping up in the chat, not only in the chat for this, but also our own group chat of just the expletives we won't, or I try not to put out on here, but it was, yeah, I was also worried, I was like, please stick landing on this episode because it was so well written beforehand. We've had one episode that hasn't been part of an arc so far, so that we can have the last two as an arc. We already discussed that. We know how good that particular individual one is. And these three weren't written by Tanya Gilroy. I can't remember the right off the top of my head, but she did a fantastic job with these 3 episodes. And there's so many little bits and pieces that I wish I had a chance to watch this twice. Last week's I'd watched a couple of times already, and I had to. And this time around, I annoyed at my own internet connection for not being able to watch it a second time. It was just so good that I wanted to go back and do it again. It's been, phenomenal.
I'm in this vein that, for Mando and Kenobi and Boba, I would always watch it twice. I'd watch it at 8 in the morning, and then I'd watch it with the evening with my dad. So I've not watched any of Andor twice yet, which is really frustrating. But at the same time, I think it's going to be really rewarding. So I'm going to do it when the season's finished. And then I'm going to treat it like films, where I'm going to do 3 episodes, then the 3 episodes, and then probably 4, and then the final 2. And we've got some great comments there. He's saying it's best Star Wars speech ever. Which one? Because there's bloody 2 excellent ones. And Carl, it really hit me when he said he couldn't. So, oh my, we're going to talk about that.
Oh, we'll get to that.
I'm hoping it's left as the most ambiguous character in Star Wars history. But
just want to say, sorry, it was Bo Williman who wrote the episodes. Yeah.
And he's done an interview with Collider today where he spoke about bringing Melshi back, which I'll bring up. They spoke about how they had to. Wow, it's really interesting to hear how Gilroy works. But so we'll get to that. So for anyone that's not seen any of our previous spoiler discussions, the way we do them is that we are going via location. So we're going to have our main event at the end, which is the prison breakout. So in a sort of juxtaposition order, we are going to talk about the ISB first, because there's a new sort of subplot kicking off there, which involves a certain Mamma Mia actor that's not Pierce Brosnan. And we've got the situation on Ferrix, and then we're going to come to prison, and then we're going to discuss maybe the last 2 episodes. Dave, thank you for scheduling today. I'm just going to set it on there.
Thanks, no worries at all. Very welcome.
But let's talk about the ISB. Phil, this is your favourite section of the week. I'm once again... I'm just going to... It wasn't the core focus of today's episode, right? So I love what we got from them, but I was very much like, yes, back to prison, please. But I did not.
I think you're the only person that's ever said that in their life.
Back to prison.
This was the big thing for me, was watching this, and it was like, I didn't realize there was a new informant subplot coming along. Wasn't the guy I expected. I mean, that is the core of the part from today, right? That it's all about Luthen exploiting I wouldn't even say exploiting the informant. It's keeping him in the job. And oh my, it was very deep. Dave, you sent me a copy of the speech. I really want to play it, but I just can't risk us getting took down by Lucasfilm, because that has happened on our Sunbad videos before, especially Mandalorian, when we did the interstellar tears to Luke's return. That got deleted. But yeah, I'm going to jump to you first of all. Thoughts on the ISB stuff? Because I say ISB is more so the Luthen speech, which is just incredible.
Yeah, the Luthen speech I'll get to in a second. The ISB, as you said, has been one of my favorite parts of this, to see the inner workings of the Empire, to see behind that curtain, the one that, the stormtroopers are that front, but behind it is all the... I mean, the ISB are the Gestapo in this instance, compared to, if you want to make the obvious comparisons to fascist Germany. There's also other secret agencies around the world, and other intelligences, and all these bits. So it's not just linked to that. But the ISB in particular has a way of making everything seem better than it should be and worse than it could be at the same time. They talk about last week's episode where they had this cargo freight. It's like, well, we have to make it look like an accident. So how are we going to make it look like an accident? And even that, then bringing it back today, we're like, well, we've got to have a look at it, because if we don't have a look at it, it'll look suspicious. It's all the tiny bits here and there. Mirren is obviously frustrated. The informant, I can't remember what his name's off the top of my head, but I kind of, if you go back to our first episodes talking about Lonnie, that's it, talking about the ISB, I said I was looking out for people I might recognize from the Rebellion. And although I don't think he's in Rogue One, it was like the hangout, like he doesn't seem to fit quite right. If you go back and watch the first episode he's in, he looks kind of nervous. You think it's because he's in trouble. Lauren's there going, look, especially we are in a bit of a pickle here. Everything's going wrong. You guys need to fix this. Tell me how we're going to fix it. And you now get to this point, you now know why. So his performance has been very subtle throughout until you get to this point. And then it gets dark. So we always know about Coruscant. We've always known about the levels below. We've also had the rumors from 1313 and Underworlds and all these other bits and pieces that are supposed to be coming but never did. Luthen then being the darker side that we... Every time you dig more, you find more and more layers to him. And it's interesting that by the time you have Lonnie then go into the elevator, he stands, he puts in the code in, and you see him reach above to find the earpiece. And I was wondering if it was going to be Luthen at the end, but if so, what he was going to say. But from the perspective there, when you have the initial meeting, is he going, right, the assistant goes, look, there's a problem, there's a mark I found, and the lady's on the stairs, he wants a meeting. Yeah. Luthen's like, okay, you think Luthen's going to be the one in trouble here. You think he's the one that's being found out. In reverse, as soon as he puts the earpiece in, it's like, if this is a trap, hit 215. Silence. Good. Right then. So it's been a year. You're a father now. And just the look on his face was just, how did you know? And it is terrifying. And then, yes, you get to Luthen's speech, which is very much... I love that line from Lonnie. It's like, what have you sacrificed? Come on, I've been in this job for 7 years. I've had to work for people I hate. I've now got a family. I want out. I have sacrificed enough. What have you sacrificed? And Luthen just stands there, wig completely gone now. He's gone back to the natural hair now. We can see that it's everything's absolutely fine. And just lays into him with the speech of, I have sacrificed everything compared to you. You have done nothing. So you're going to stay in this job. You're going to do exactly what I tell you. And hopefully, you might get out of this alive. I'm not going to see the end of this. I'm not going to see the sunshine I'm creating. And that sunrise part was just, it hits like a freight train. So to see Miriam get frustrated to Lonnie covering the asses and then going down having that speech was, spine chilling.
It's one of the best written moments I've seen in the Star Wars history. When you just the shot of, first of all, the elevator, the way it's done. I mean, how beautiful. Carl's actually literally just commented about cinematography as well. Cinematography in the scene. The whole conversation of the elevator, the fact we don't see Luthen, it's his voice. And we're getting these sort of low-angle close-ups. I don't know the character's name in the lift. I don't know that's his name. I'm trying to find out on Wiki. But there's so many names. I don't know who's who anymore. But I loved his performance because, as you said, he hasn't much to do. Like, he's been very nervous and he looks very 70s. As in, a lot of the he's not background character, I guess, but a lot of characters in this have looked very, that's how they looked in the original Star Wars one. Let's bring them into like that. And I thought, oh no, we're actually going to get a character now. We're going to actually get development, and that's what surprised me with so much of this series is everyone getting development, whether they're going to be 1 episode, 3 episodes, or 5, or maybe they're going to get more to do in the next couple. And I felt fearful for the first time in a long time that not for one moment I ever think Luthen's in trouble. When the elevator door opened and Luthen's standing there, Blade Runner-esque on a dark platform, long coat, black darkness, but this guy is not going home to his family if he doesn't do the right thing. And I thought, is Luthen going to cross that line? Is he going to... There's no barriers. It was very, very, murderous. I don't think there's a word. Set up. Someone comment what the correct term would be for how it could look. But I loved this because it really shows that Luthen's like the glue that's holding it together. And kind of if you bring in the real life side of things, they kept mentioning the name of this, other rebel who's obviously going to get wiped out next week, or if he hasn't already in between episodes. And we've not seen him. And I love that we're able to find out about characters by not seeing anything, by hearing of them, by hearing about them. And I love that Luthen says, these 50 guys are going to have to die, or else the incompetency of the ISB comes through, and they are not incompetent. They can't be incompetent. They'll know there's a leak, and they'll get you. They'll get your family. And I think that's where I was really sort of gripped with the saying that, this isn't just someone's speech about being on the right side of morality, being a hero or anything. This was this is my life now. This is the 15 years. And I was just so taken aback by what had been going on, what had been saying to him. And I just want to give it to Stellan Skarsgård that I think he's an absolute delight in Star Wars. And we're going to talk about Andy Serkis later on, but I would immediately put this near the top of Stellan Skarsgård's career. Now, I haven't seen a lot of it, but I'd probably say, I'm not saying Mamma Mia, I'm not going to count that because Pierce Brosnan sings in it, but this is probably his best English language role, and I guarantee you it will be when this show finishes. But it's just to get that, and again, it wasn't built up with this guy. If you'd have had all the shots over the last few weeks of the ISB, every time someone said something, if they'd have just cut to this guy looking awkward, not saying anything, you'd think, they've been teeing this. But because we've seen him working, offering solutions, that's where the surprise comes from for me. But it's been clearly there from the very, very build-up. Even him saying, well, it's more important if we go and investigate like the Empire would do. And it's just him and and also Dedra Miro being name-dropped, like, this person's rising up the Academy. You're going to need to watch her. Like, she's good. And it's unbelievable TV. And it's exceptional, and it's a joy to listen to. But I'm going to hand over to Dave.
I loved how he said when he was trying to get out as well, when Lonnie was trying to leave, he's like, what, you're now just going to be giving me this gift basket of information as your leaving present, like as a leaving gift? Like, you can't go anywhere. You're trapped, like you're stuck, and you're going nowhere. As much as he even said, like, as much as it's a horrible thing to say, you can't go anywhere. You're with us, and that's it. Now you're in. I just thought it was So well played. Robert Ems is the guy who plays the role. I had to check. But yeah, it's so good. I think Phil, you did mention, I think in one of the early episodes when we first saw him, that you thought it was someone from Rogue One, which it obviously wasn't him, but you did spot him in like the first, I think maybe the first or second episode where you said, "Oh, that I think he's a rebel," which was like obviously just thinking it was a character, but well spotted. So for him just to be in that background, it's that mustache that should give him away. Total 77 stash. It's amazing. So yeah, I just thought it was really well played. I love that we're in the ISB for a few minutes and we're just like, well, God, it's worked. The plan's worked, right? Well, that's fine. No, we have to investigate it because that would look like we're not doing what we should be doing. And then from the other side, that's exactly what Luthen's saying, that we now need to let these guys be sacrificed, because if we don't, they'll know something's up in the ISB. So they're both playing this same role against each other. But oh my word, it was just so good. I love getting to the lower levels of Coruscant. It's kind of the first time as well we've seen the upper levels and it's all humans. As soon as we got down to the depths of Coruscant, we actually started getting aliens around. Like they've just been, Palpatine's just pushed all these other, the types he doesn't like. He's just pushed them down to the lower levels. And I really like that. Sort of like, oh, now we're seeing the aliens. As people, I think I'd read something online today saying it's not really Star Wars. I've never seen two non-human characters talking about something today that happened in the episode, but they're all in this lower level. Just worked so well. The ISB stuff is so intertwined. Obviously they had a massive bit with the torture in the last episode. To have this little bit play out in this episode still made a massive mark on the episode, but the main crux of this obviously was one Luthen's speech, which is just, you're right, Skarsgård, I've never seen him better, but again, I've not seen much outside of sort of his Avengers role and a couple of other bits and pieces, but yeah, as far as English language stuff goes, I think this is going to top out in that. I mean, he's just gone over what's he given up, like calm, kindness, kinship, love. He's just everything I've given up. It's just, when you get chills when you watch something. Watching Star Wars, I've never had, like I had in this episode, I had two moments. I had moments of actual physical chills in the two speeches, and a moment in the prison where I literally, an audible, like, yes, happened as well. And that's not happened watching television for a long, it's happened during movies once or twice, but in watching a TV show, I can't even recall it happening. So yeah, just a great piece.
Yeah, it's the line where it's you'll see the sunrise that I will never see. That's the chills right there. That's the, this hits different. And it's talking about sacrificing Carrick and his 50 men. It's just like, yeah, that's just 50 men. Like, think of the bigger picture.
You're one, yeah.
You don't get a chance to. I have to think of the bigger picture. You think I like doing this? I don't, but I'm doing it because I have to. And it's that line of, you're going to see the sunrise that I will never get to see. It's just, And to go back to what you're saying, actually, because it's what makes Grand Admiral Thrawn so different, is because he is non-human. He's a Chiss. He's the only non-human, really, in the Empire. There are very few and far between, because Palpatine is a xenophobe, and the Empire is very xenophobic, and you do see that start to happen. It's what you get more with the rebellion, the resistance later on, is that you have been quashed, come to us. Thank you, Empire. Thank you, First Order, for pushing them away, because you've made us stronger. And it's a very, it's hard. But it's good to see it. As Dave was saying, it's that proper just, like down the spine chills at that speech.
And I think because we've not really had it before, not had it before in Star Wars, but Dave, you mentioned sort of Goosebumps, not to be the guy that brings up The Last Jedi, but there's very few films, and I think it's unfair for me to put 1 to 6 in there because I saw them at such a young age as maybe a fair time, because obviously, as a kid you wouldn't get it, but certainly like The Last Jedi, the throne room sequence is probably the only time I've had that outside of Andor, if I'm being bluntly honest. Mm-hmm. Not a hype moment, but to me, like, this is good. This is like a new tier of what I've seen before, and the difference of Andor to me is that it's doing it like every week, and wait till some of this we get to talk about. But we move on from the ISB. As much as we love them, we're going to get a few more episodes with them. We'll go to Ferrix, where things are being fairly quiet. We got a short scene, but I think this is setting up where the finale is going to go. We'll talk about the finale at the end, but we're getting a little bit more information on Marva, who's now hiding her medicine. Things are getting very out of hand. she's sort of like Grandpa Joe in what's it called, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You know, when he's been ill for like decades, and now his grandson's got him to a chocolate factory. He's all good again. Now those meds don't do anything, and I'm sort of having these vibes with Aunt Petunia, if I'm being honest. And obviously, I guess what it's really setting up is that we have, oh dearie me, is it Cinta? Cinta's there, which, you know, we know something's going to happen. And I can't remember which one of you two, sorry, mentioned it to me. I think it might be you, Phil, but there's more and more Empire presence now there. Every time we go back there, there's more and more of a presence. And I think we're going to be coming back here for the next 2 episodes, or at least the finale. But again, not much there, but it's really interesting how they're talking about Marvel, because again, it's so fundamental in the first 3 episodes, and they're sort of slowly bringing her back into the fold for something, you know, big to happen.
Yeah, I do think that she's going to be the draw that brings Cassian back to Ferrex for some reason, to either save her from something that's going on. They're going to use her at some point, I think, to make her the draw to bring him back in. But I love the fact we were there for a couple of minutes. But in that, you saw stormtroopers on like quite a few corners, quite a number of stormtroopers. You could hear the sound of the Imperial probe droids just in the background. You didn't see them, but you could hear them, like that buzz and electronic noise. It's just like the Empire is here and it's everywhere in Ferrex. They've now made it a proper Imperial outpost where they're all just pouring in. And you're right, I think this is where we'll get to the end, but I do think this will end up for certainly the last few minutes of the finale, last 10, 15 minutes of the finale. Something's happening there, but it's nice Cinta's still around. What her dealing is with what she wants with Cassian when he gets there, whether she's looking out for him or she's taking that you left us and the plan went apart and I lost my friends, or whether she's blaming him, we don't kind of know. So I'm interested to see what happens. So it was nice to visit. It's nice to get a reminder of what's going on. But yeah, obviously the main focus was elsewhere.
Oh, she's going to try and kill him. That's the whole point of why they went with Mel to basically trap Andor, was to get rid of him because Luthen wants him gone. I brought him in. Now I want him taken out. He knows too much and he knows who I am, kind of thing. And he just was like, yeah. So she will be the draw. She will do something with Marva that will draw Cassian back, and I agree that's what it'll be for the finale. And yeah, so to actually go back to something you're talking about, the probe droids and everything, the soundscape for Andor is the best I have heard since Rogue One. The sequel trilogy has some amazing sounds in it, but you haven't had anything this good since the original trilogy. And I say hand on heart because we'll get to it later on when we talk about the prison escape. But whilst the escape is going on, the music is written so that you can hear a very similar sound as to the sound that the second Death Star is making when everything is going wrong, when they are getting out of there. It's not the full-on warning klaxon, but the soundscape is designed in such a way that you really are immersed. And I think this is the best we've had in all of Star Wars TV since Rogue One. I hand on heart say that. I think it's been fantastic, and it's sound is very important to Star Wars. Always has been, always will be. You know which Jedi it is by specifically their lightsaber ignition sound. It's some of them you really can pinpoint what you're hearing when you're hearing it, and it's a big part of the story. So to go along, hear the Imperial probe droids, but also hear the Imperial chatter in all the headphones from the helmets. You don't know what's being said. There's nothing clear. You don't need it to be clear. And in fact, that's what makes it more sinister, is not knowing. That's why I hate what they did in episode 6 when they put in the nose for Vader. That scene was so much more powerful when he was silent. It's knowing what to add and when not to add. And Ferrex is going to be... This was a setup. Very clear, very obvious, quick, short. We know that Bix is still being tortured at this point, or has been tortured. We don't know what her fate is. Marva's not taking her medication. Cinta is there ready for the setup. The trap has been laid. Andor now will go back. Now, how it plays out, we don't know. But that trap and that setup has been laid, and you don't need more than 2 minutes. And that's all the scene was, just a couple of minutes, and that's all you need to lay for what's to come. I thought it was fantastically done.
Yeah, and I think that what's to come, we know what's going to happen. Obviously, not really, it's not a spoiler at all, but knowing they built this as its own town/village set indicates how important this is. But I don't think they'd have just done that for the first 3 episodes, if I'm being blunt. I think they'd have done it for the whole series, and we're going to get certainly the next 2 episodes there. And I'm really excited to see what happens there, and that'll be one we speak in a lot more detail. And before we get to the main event, we're going to talk about Mon Mothma in Coruscant, because we had one of the more... I'm on a Game of Thrones type, so apologies, but we had our most Game of Thrones conversation today with the gangster and the whole Mon Mothma stuff, which is still building. Obviously, we're heading into a 2-part finale, so there's still a lot more to come from her, I feel. But today's episode was one of the most interesting ones in that we really got to... we've slated her family a lot recently. Obviously, it's fictional, so it's fine. And obviously, the disconnect from her daughter. I'm just going to jump into it. The proposition from the gangster: money's no object to him. He doesn't need money. Money isn't what he requires. He wants his son to essentially marry into the Mothma family, which I never thought would be... I mean, I know that Mon Mothma is an arranged marriage herself when she was younger, but I never thought we'd get that political side of it coming into Star Wars. Like, oh, we are going to get forced arranged political marriages in Star Wars, and not something I never asked for in Star Wars. It's not something you never imagined to have been in Star Wars. But when we're looking at the political spectrum of the Empire, of Mon Mothma, of stature, and especially somewhere like Coruscant, it kind of makes so much sense that this was put forward. And I think one of the most noble things it showed about her is that she does care about her daughter, because she said no. And obviously, we then got the tease line from the character right at the end. Sorry, I jumped in, but that's the first time you've been untruthful today, is you saying that you're not thinking about it, which leaves your mind spinning, saying, is she thinking about it? And I thought this is a scene that I'm very intrigued by what will follow up, because they need him, they need his money, they need his funding, but surely she's not going to give away the daughter in that respect. And it's one that I don't think I'm going to be able to comment on until the story's done, because it's so niche and outside of Star Wars, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was a really not a bad moment from the episode, but completely different pacing and tone to the rest of everything we saw. It really just slowed everything down to a stop. Just this conversation between 3 people, which was lovely. It was great. It was just a nice moment. I love that they were going they were talking, but they was talking as if they were still being listened to. So they weren't directly saying, "This is what we're doing and this is what I need the money for." It was all you just need to move your money this way, and it's just they were saying everything without saying anything at all. They were saying completely sentences that didn't make what they're actually doing stick out. Loved it. But I loved the proposition of well, I've got a son, he's 14, I'll be bringing him. Your daughter's 13. Let's get them guys to have a bit of a thing together. And she's nah. I did like how she was just that's your only proposition. Toro will show you out. That's not going to happen. But you're right. I think in the back of my mind, she's also going to be thinking, my daughter's a right one. I get rid of her here. But it was a really nice moment. Right, it's hard to kind of go through the Mothma stuff without knowing how we're going to finish the series with her, or how we're going to finish series 2 with her. Because I don't think this is going to be wound up by the time we finish series 1. I think this is going to be just the groundwork being laid in the back. So it's really intriguing. I can't wait to see if she does decide that, you know what, at the end of the day, it's my daughter, and I suppose we can do it and maybe change things along the line. I am very intrigued to see how it goes. But yeah, I liked how she didn't just throw her daughter under the bus, even though her daughter's been rancid to her.
Yeah, it's not entirely thrown under the bus, but at the same time, as she said, it's that's the first time you said something's untruthful. You are thinking about it, and I know you will do it. And it's just, she might do, but at the same time, the husband wasn't a choice, the daughter was. I think that's where she's trying to draw the line. But this series makes you think, because the arguments I've had over the years between people who like the Empire versus people like the Rebellion, they call the Rebellions terrorists rather than freedom fighters. This then does show the darker underbelly of the rebels. It's the how low will you stoop? How far will you go? How to match the Empire to overthrow them? How far are you willing to go for what you believe is right? And in the same instance, how much of your own soul are you going to sell on the way? You might be buying freedom for the galaxy, but at what personal cost? And that's what the Empire makes you do. It's them going, we have all the power. If you want to take it, well, yes, absolute power corrupts absolutely. But at the same time, you're going to have to go as far as we are to do it. And in turn makes the Rebel Alliance looks bad, which then promotes Imperial sympathy. It's all very, it's cogs turning. Nothing is ever in balance. And as he said, like, you are thinking about it. That's the first untruthful thing you've said, and he knows it. He knows he's got her trapped. There's also why Take Home was like, well, you can't really be serious about meeting this guy, right? And she's like, well, what other option do I have? I can't freely access the money, so I now need to do something a bit dodgy. And he's like, I have no need of money. I've got plenty of money. But to have my foot in the door and have you politically wound around my finger for the rest of eternity, now that's something money can't buy. And it's just, along with Stellan Skarsgård, Genevieve O'Reilly for me has been fantastic in this series so far. She was only introduced as Mon Mothma very briefly in a deleted scene for episode 3, but she was brought back for Rogue One. But this is where she's taken the meat for Mon Mothma. And yes, she's been brought back in Rebels and things, but this is where that character has been really, truly developed outside of that very stoic role which she plays in the Rebel Alliance, where she's basically, she's just chairperson. You know, she's in charge of keeping all the plates spinning. So she has that decorum and that level of just has to be level-headed. Whereas at home, you then see the frustrations with her husband and her daughter. You see the family life, and you see the sacrifices she's then having to make. So who will go lower, Luthen or Mon Mothma? And how low will they go to bring up the Alliance? And she, of course, references with Saw Gerrera being an extremist. Well, how far is he going to have to go to then be pushed? And it is so interesting. It has so much flavor. And this is why this is how you write Star Wars. Just people who say political policies have no place in Star Wars. Yeah, watch this. Then try and disagree with us, because this is why.
It's very real as well. It still happens around the world, not as much as obviously the old day, but yeah, and it's something nice for them to explore in terms of thematics and story they've not done. And kind of said, Phil, with Mon Mothma, from someone that had a deleted scene up to now, I'd say co-leading a series. Granted, it's Andor by title, but it's very much her show as much as I feel it is his. And might put Star Wars is limbo dancing, and this is it. And there'll be people that might not like this, and there'll be people that do like it. But I think I have more respect for them going out to dare to do something different, rather than play it safe every single time. Go for the political spectrum. You're on TV now. You've got long-form storytelling. This is a 3-episode arc. It's part of a 12-episode series of a 24 episode show. That's not been done in Star Wars, and they're right to explore some of these deeper themes, and especially Coruscant. We love the prequels, we love the Star Wars stuff up there, the Jedi Temple going around the planet, but to actually explore what these people are like is something we didn't have the luxury of before, and it's really exciting. I'm just going to kind of add to that, not with the whole weird alien talk, but I love the fact that, again, Tony Gore was like, I don't want aliens, I want humans, mate. I'm not going to have an alien gangster. I'm not there to dish on Mando or any of the other shows, but so then would be like, a gangster, let's bring in a Hutt. That's how it would have been, wouldn't it? But no, it's a new character. It's a human character.
To be fair, I think it works better being human purely because the more outer rim you go, it's not that. The more outer rim you go in the galaxy, the more wild space, the more that humans are not there. They're not present, and it is aliens that run that part of the galaxy. The more centralized you get, the more
it's a capital, isn't it?
Exactly, it is, and it's just played perfectly well. So it's we had Jabba the Hutt originally be a fat guy with a coat. Well, this is how gangster should be done human-wise, but we have Jabba, we have the spectrum, and you know full well what's lurking in the undergrowth. This is the highfalutin gangster. You've got the scum down below, but it's still all different areas of the spectrum for both the Rebel Alliance, for the Empire, for scum and villainy, for everything. You've got a spectrum, and as you're saying, George, long-form TV allows you to tell that, and it's chef's kiss, perfect.
And I think there's going to be more Mothma stuff. Obviously, we know there is, but I think we're going to get, of the last 2 episodes, I think maybe next week, I think we'll get more Mothma than Andor. I know sometimes they sort of balance between the two of them. But obviously, the main event for this week is Andor himself. And here we are, guys. If you are watching and you haven't seen the episode, please do turn on, because the real spoilers come now. We're going to talk about the prison breakout. With the episode beginning immediately as last week's finished, it's them going back to the room, and I don't even know how I'm going to get into this conversation, if I'm being honest with you. I watched this at work today on my lunch break, and I try and avoid watching it at work because yes, it's a nice 1080p computer, fine. And I had these headphones. I brought in my proper surround sound headphones for it to get the sound no one can speak to me. But to what we witnessed, and I'm just going to summarize this final part of this incredible act, is one of my favorite Star Wars stories we've ever been told. From the moment we're brought back with them today through to the final shots of them running on the beach, even the beautiful shot towards the end of them swimming out of the Empire logo, that is just sensational. I just want to. I love Andy Serkis. He's always one of my favorite actors, and I'm just going to go for it now. To me, he's crafted in this role one of the best Star Wars characters we've ever had the chance of meeting. And again, it's down to TV. We get to spend time with supporting characters. We get to develop them. But I just need to say that he's one of my favorite actors of all time. And this role, and it's really weird, right? So I'm talking about to my dad, like Andy Serkis in Star Wars, like in human form. Like he's an actor, but when you're one of the most iconic actors of all time through the differing roles you've played that aren't yourself, whether it's Caesar, Gollum, King Kong, Lumpy the Chef, even in Tintin, he blends on screen in everything he's ever done. And this was the one today where we really, I don't want to say he got to his action shots, it's really disrespectful because he's in a lot of roles in, without motion capture. It's probably the term I should be using, not human form. But I just loved him. And going what Carl said, the moment he said, can't swim, it wasn't he's died. It wasn't he didn't get out. It wasn't he got electrocuted. We don't know his fate, and that's the most devastating thing they could have done for him. Is that right now we might know in a week, we might know in 2 weeks what has happened to him. But yeah, I don't have the words to talk about this arc. So Dave, I'm going to let you go first, and I'm going to pop in after you both have a word because I just from every scene of the way they did this was like poetry today. And I've just got to hand it to them. Staging the setup, staging the breakouts, leading up to the speech, which we'll probably talk about in proper detail. It was just something we've not had before, and we're all better off for having it.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump in purely because Dave has lost internet. So he'll be back in.
That's why there was no reaction. I was like, what's going on there?
Yeah. So don't worry, I'll jump in for now. Because there's so much to say. So I'll talk about the soundscape earlier, and I love throughout the escape that you do get those very Death Star vibes from it. But Andy Serkis is, as you said, a phenomenal actor. And yes, this is him in human form, non-mocap. It's one of the things I actually quite enjoy about The Lord of the Rings is when you see him not as Gollum per se, but it's nice to then see more of this. And this is grizzled. He's been there for long enough. He knows he's not got much time left on his sentence. Well, that's what he believes anyway. And as soon as you see him snap at the end of the last episode with the never more than 12, you know that although he is unsure about what's happening, he knows he can't stay here any longer. And you have that wonderful interaction between him and Andor after Olaf has been taken, going, I know what needs to be done, but the same time, he's holding onto some belief that I've only got 200 shifts left. But he's then trying to process the fact that his 200 shifts will then just mean he goes to a different prison. And it's just, you wonder if that's kind of played into what happens with Jin as well. The fact that she's transported from prison to prison and does various bits as well. It's just this, it's a loop that never ends. And he finally sees through it, but he's not sure if he has what it takes to escape. He's been leading people for as long as he can remember throughout his sentence, and now he has to lead them out. And Cassian builds him up. Instead of Cassian taking over and going, right, we will do what I say. They respect you. They will listen to you. If you tell them, they will do it. And it's phenomenal between Diego Luna and Andy Serkis. That interaction so well played out. You then, of course, get to the breakout itself. Now, I have done a little bit of research, and actually someone brought it up, and I absolutely love it. So basically, what they're making is on the TIE fighters, in the middle of the solar panel, is that octagonal or hexagonal shape in the middle. So basically, the center And those arms going out to the solar panels, that's what they're making in those rooms. So if you look at the side of a TIE fighter, you will see what they've been making. So then you can kind of piece together where it's the Imperial War Machine, obviously. At this point, then, you then get the whole why he's been cutting away a little hose pipe with some rusty little knife and things, and it all comes together, and you wonder why it's happening with the water and everything, and it leaks, and it is phenomenal. And then, of course, you then get to the real meat and bones of this, which isn't the actual escape itself in terms of how they're getting out. It's then the speech, the second speech. It's not often you get two speeches in a film, let alone a TV show, let alone one episode, that hits you as hard as we've had with these two. And they're two differing ends of the spectrum. One is very much I'm going to die probably. I'm not going to see the end of this. You will. So you're going to do what I tell you, because if not, then no one gets to see it. This is very much there is sunshine out there. We just have to grasp it. And I love the interaction where it's Cassian's like, is that the best you can do? You need to lead them. They listen to you. They respect you. You can't just sit there and go, we've taken over here. And what I love, though, is actually the speaker itself. So when you have the Imperial officer, there is a voice filter with...
Sounds like Master Control Program from Tron. I kept thinking about it all day.
True. This, though, it almost sounded a bit like Snoke. And I'm like, yeah, they have tuned it slightly. It's not quite full Snoke. They've turned the dial back a little bit. I like that. It's a proper little nod there. But when they do break into that control room and you have that moment, and as soon as he then stops worrying and starts believing, second chills. I know that whole moment of yes, but this is also that moment of just, hang on a second, I've had two in this one. I can't. This is why this episode needs to be watched not only more than once, I think more than twice, to actually really grasp what happens here. And as soon as you see it, as soon as he starts talking about the flaws and the fact that he goes, they fried 100 men to stop us from finding out that this is not the end, that you will go from here to another prison. And then you have it cutting to the different prisoners. And as soon as they step on that floor, because all the floors are cold, as soon as you step, it is incredible. And it just builds and builds and builds. And then, as Martin said, you get to the end where it's you have him looking, what are you doing? Come on. He's like, can't swim. And you see him get there. It's like, my freedom's in front of me, and I don't know if I can take it. And I personally hope we don't find out. I want them to leave it ambiguous. Yeah. I don't want us to know if he lives or dies, because I think it actually be better for the story. And I think because of how this has been written, I think that will be the case.
Dave, just your thoughts on the arc before we go into sort of specifics of it, maybe, because we've got a few of the conversations we can definitely have.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I can't even get over how good this was. Circus in this for me was on another level of performance. Like, from the moment, it's just the way he looked sometimes, that moment where they first got back to the prison after the room, when they first got back there, and all the prisoners are just like, he's lying, it can't be true, this is not what's going on. And he just froze, and he looked, and it's like just that shout of, no one is getting out. It was like, oh my word. Like, that moment we gave up the number of guards. That was kind of just him giving Cassian an idea. And then for him to for that full realization, I think, in all honesty, he knew that even if he got it all went right, he had no way of getting off there. He knew he couldn't swim. He knows they're on a barge. He knew no matter what. I think because at one point he says he'll stay down and hold the doors. And Cassian's like, come on, help us up. So he says at the beginning, I'll already see myself as dead, and then we'll go from there. And I just think he already knew he was never going to get off that ship at that point. It's just a masterclass. I've liked Circus. I've never been drawn to him as an actor as I have. I mean, he did Thriller Dance and 13 going on 30. That was pretty good. But I just think he was just exceptional. His art across these 3 episodes. And I think Phil's right. I don't kind of want to know. I kind of leave it there. We knew really anyone who's stuck in that prison is not getting out. They're going to bring in other troops. They're all going to arrive. That's going to either get sunk or everyone will get killed and they start again. It's just the way it's going to go. It is like Phil said, it's just a war machine. They get more people in and they'll start again. He was just phenomenal.
One way out.
And this is it. And I think he's always known the way. And I think when you look back at the episode, as you said, it sets up everything that he isn't going to go. He probably knows it's water. Like, he's been there the longest. And it just made me think, when we were introduced to prison, we didn't just go to prison on the inside, and us ourselves, the audience, never saw the outside. We did. You shook your mind back, and I just forgot that it is water. We didn't know how they were going to get out, what would happen. And I just think it was such a genius way of doing it, because it's so unforgiving in the approach to it, and that everything can backtrack. And even at the start, as you said, when he goes back to the room and he's flipping from giving the info to saying none of us are getting out, for one brief minute I thought, is he going to betray them? Surely not. And I love the fact over the sort of 20 minutes he earns his confidence in his opposition to the Empire. And I think that's the fundamentals of what worked with his character arc, is that he eventually, ousted them. He wasn't involved in wanting to do it. And that's where it leads to the incredible speech. And one thing I really want to touch upon is one of my favorite inclusions, just seeing the other rooms, because even some of the other people, when the old person died, I forgot his name. People's like, the old man died. The old man's died. They never knew who he was.
Yeah.
But this is it. They never knew who he was, because to them, it was a guy in their shift who was in another team. So they never spoke to him. And I think that's what's more haunting. And then you think there's a night shift with them. There's a day shift. And what I kind of loved is the next day when Andy Serkis is walking around Andor, he's like, you're really going to do it today now. And I love that we got to spend small amounts of time with everybody around them. This guy is already dead. He's not going to make it. The really confident guy gets shot straight away. And I'm just going to talk about the actual breakout sequence itself. The fact that we got to see people get not horrifically killed, that sounds really unfair, but it wasn't like, we've met you and you across the last month, you're all going to escape. The guy that was doing the parkour that got like the most ruthless death of when he tries to, climb up and just get shot point blank, body flips back. It was a real brutal scene, and we actually got something we don't have often in Star Wars, which is the actual laser scorch marks on their white jumpsuits as well when they were getting killed. It was such a brutal sequence, and again, that's just two guards with a gun each, and we got to get an understanding of how and why, and even the tension leading up to the floor and the water. We saw what was it? Two people got fried, or one of them, and it's when Andy Serkis screams at them, everyone on the tables. That's when you know he's on their side. Everyone on the tables, and he can't get there in time. It's almost, now we've got to the ending, we've seen what happens, it's almost like we know he accepted his fate. But
as soon as you realise, though, it was just like, oh, hang on a second, we are getting out of this, right? And the one bit I know I want you to mention, George, see if you pick up on saying, Dave, the guards, when they realise what's going on and they lock themselves in a room going quiet because they are terrified. Because
they know they're understaffed. They know that they're not going to win. And even the control room, the guy who's the master control program, the fact like they let him live is the big thing. So I thought, is Serkis just going to gun them down in rage? But he never did. And I thought, oh, he's left his gun. Are they going to now go for him like mid-speech or something as a martyr? But I love the fact that they're not like ripped men. They're not big and built. The whole point is that they're not just cowards for killing, 100 odd people and having this tormentorous cycle. They're almost just people working like it's their job. And I think that's what makes it 10 times scarier. Is they're just people doing their jobs. Now, there's not saying that's right because people interpret it as that, which I'm not. But the fundamentals of the origin for that is quite scary to comprehend. That the guy with the intimidating voice, which was, I genuinely think it's the master control program Atron, was just some weakling guy that was absolutely scared the moment they were in the room with him. Three of them are and Andy Serkis, and they were still terrified. I think there's so much to take into account, and one of the things that Star Wars hasn't done well since 1977 is the concept of less is more. Why does the finale work so well on the Death Star? It's not the fact there's thousands of TIE fighters. There's three. It's Darth Vader and two others, and they take out everyone. That is a big moment. And meanwhile, I love the other ones down the line. Having 100,000 TIE fighters driving at you, it's not that scary. It's not threatening because we know what it is. But when you've got a few amount of people doing it, it really adds, I think, a bit of dimension to it. And just for, the whole sequence is just incredible. Kind of jumps you, like, aside from the speech, like, do you have a favorite moment of that breakout if you want to talk about it?
There's so many to mention. I think the big moment is probably the I can't swim at that moment, the realization that he's got there. He's got the moment he can feel the fresh air, feel the breath, like that fresh air that he's got there. And he just knows, like, this is as far as my journey goes. Like, I love that bit. The speech, you can't really get past it as being the big moment. Today is our Independence Day sort of moment. I just that. And to be honest, my favorite moment in the whole breakdown, actually, the bit that made me cheer, was when they do turn on the floor and it does get the two who don't get the tables in time, and then suddenly it shorts everything and it just goes dark.
Yeah.
And then you see the guy start to panic, flicking the switch again, and nothing happens. That was the one that I just went, yes, because he knew what was coming, that the break was happening, and it was, what a moment.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But that also, as I said, there's the moment when he just yells at them on program. It's like it's the only thing he knows what to say. The only thing he knows how to get across what he wants them to do is by yelling back at them what they've been telling him to do since he got there. Since the moment he's been there, that on program was just phenomenal. But it's the little moments, as I said, the soundscape, the fact that you have the guards cowering in a room so they know they're bugged. If anyone finds out, they're dead. Because they fear the repercussions, and it takes me back. I know I've mentioned Nazi Germany before in this, but there's some interesting documentaries where they've had interviews with people who worked at the concentration camps with those guards there. It's like, well, I was just doing my job. Yes, the job was one of the most horrific, inhumane jobs ever, but it was a job. And you have that same bit with the guards when they get into that control room. It's just two very meek people, but power is power for a reason. And it's the why that you talk about the less is more. It's why the Vader corridor scene in Rogue One, the Luke corridor scene in Mando works so well. It's the less is more. It's the one against the many. There's also a wonderful bit in one of the books called Lords of the Sith where you have Vader literally go onto a ship and he leaves a comm on as he's killing everybody just so that Cham Syndulla can hear it. Just so that he can hear what's going on. It's that fear factor. The Empire is built on fear, and to see them themselves become fear itself and actually be scared, that switch of power is incredible. But for me, my favorite moment, as I said, was just after that moment when the floor is short. In that speech, when it's flicking to the different cells, and as soon as you have the guy realize that he puts his foot down and it's cold. And he realized that moment then it's chills. It is proper chills because you see them start to walk, then run, then build, and it builds and it builds until they get to the end where people are literally just being pushed off the ledge. It's like, come on, we need to get out of here. Like, out of my way. If you're not going to jump, I will. And you see someone get knocked over and people running over them and the entire time chanting, one way out.
Yeah.
3 words. I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it. Is one of the best moments ever, and this is why I love Star Wars. This is why I love good writing. It was done phenomenally. And at the end, where you knew Melchi was going to get out, but you didn't know who else was going to be with him. And yet at the end, you have just the beach and the silence. You see the search helicopters in the background. You see the Empire's cottoned onto what's gone on. Everyone's got back. Who left? But it doesn't matter because you can see hope. Rebellions are built on hope, and this is hope personified, and it's fantastically done.
Can I talk about Melchi really quickly? So the interview with Collider today is with the writer Bo, and it's really interesting that they spoke about the process of bringing Melchi back because obviously Tony Gilroy isn't into the fan service. And apparently what happened is when Tony Gilroy came on board during Rogue One for the reshoots, he really enjoyed the performance from Duncan Powell, and he really enjoyed working with him. Because I think Melchi is one of them as well for me, where he was one of the. I mean, I love Rogue One. One of Rogue One's issues, and it's not the film's fault, is you're introducing an ensemble cast with so many character arcs that are going to start and end in the same film, where eventually I think it comes good for them in the sense of everyone has their finales, and I think the film clicks, and that's what clearly when Tony Gilroy came on board for the reshoots. But Melchi is one of the few like supporting characters who actually had something to do. And I think Powell was Powell and the giant, not Wampa, but all the other ones that had the hype that were minority roles were essentially aliens because we loved the designs of them. Was it the little monkey one that was in the U-wing that got massacred as well?
Oh, Bistan.
Yeah, and like Melshi actually has stuff to do, and his death is quite savage in the film because it's glossed over, and we didn't get to know him, but apparently Tony Gilroy wanted him in Andor, but he wasn't going to bring people in for the sake of it, and it was the writer of today's episode that brought him in. When they were constructing the story arc for this, what he told Collider was that we realized that some of the strongest bonds people have with one another is those that meet in prison. And if it's a rebellion, it's essential that Cassian meets and bonds with people. So that's where the idea came in for Melshi to meet him for the first time, bring him into the series. Apparently, when they pitched it to Tony Gilroy, he was absolutely fine with it and said it works for the story. And apparently, every single creative decision in the Andor series has to be approved by Tony Gilroy. I know he's the showrunner, but there is a fundamental of control by him. And even for someone that he wanted to bring back, he needed the justification of it. And I think that's something, if I'm going to criticize, this is maybe all Star Wars than just like the recent. Yeah. It's that people are brought in because they want the person in more so than the story jumping in. And I think this is where Andor's really strengthened. And Melshi's, again, most people probably never heard of him. Most people didn't realize he's probably in Rogue One. But now we might spend a bit of time with him. Probably, we mentioned we did the Rogue One video before the series came out. We'll do one after season 2's out. I think Melshi is going to be one of the characters that we get some stuff. Dave, I know you are having some little bit of internet issues. I can see you, though, if you can hear me. But aside from Melshi, Andy Serkis' speech, I compare the performance to Caesar. That if anyone ever saw the amazing teaser for, what was the third one? War of the Planet of the Apes. The first trailer was him in his motion capture gear giving a speech, and it essentially translated him into Caesar by the end of the trailer. But it's his facial expressions alongside his actual performance that have always lived with Caesar. That if you ever see the motion capture behind the scenes, it's really fascinating to see his approach to them. And certainly in this one, I felt this was almost like his Caesar performance, but done in a new take. And I just absolutely loved him in it. And as you said, Phil, with his speech building up to the fact his first speech is terrible, like he's too nervous to do it. And I was like, do an actual proper one. I love where it builds to, again, the montage of the other people jumping in. It was a really interesting way, I think, for them to end this storyline. And I love the fact it wasn't big, loud explosions or stuff like this. It was a more routine breakout. It wasn't about blowing up things or blowing up the facility after. They just shut the dam down and went. And I just thought it's one of the best ways. And what's more harrowing is something that really shows that there was multiple prisons on that secluded water. So that one prison's escaped out of, I don't know how many are going to be there, but I bet the ISB will be letting us know next week.
Yeah, so there was 5,000, I think they said, had the chance to escape from that one prison. So they saw 3 or 4 when they were brought in. So they, do the maths. Man, I can't. I'm terrible. I just Circus' speech was excellent. I think it was the line he said, "Fight half as hard as we've been working," and it was just like, oh god, just he said everything right that those prisoners needed to hear for them to then make the moves that they did once the floors were turned off. It's just been exceptional. The series itself has been hitting high bars, and those high bars have gotten higher every week. I have no idea how the finale tops this arc. It's been that good, and Circus for me has been the absolute standout of these last 3 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to give an Emmy to Stellan Skarsgård or Andy Serkis, who are you giving it to? It's that difficult.
They're talking today. I mean, I don't know the logistics of the Emmys, but a lot of people are talking, saying they need to put Serkis in for the guest slot because obviously you get the guest Emmys. My only concern is it a guest spot if it's for 3 episodes? I don't know the logistics, but if I was Lucasfilm,
proper character,
and this is, so if I'm Lucasfilm, I'm saying go all out on Andor. Put it forward for. I mean, we know next year. Listen, you're gonna have Lord of the Rings. You're gonna have House of the Dragon. You're gonna have Succession when it starts in spring, so it'll go on the Emmy meter. Next year's Emmys are going to be probably the most stacked it's been in 3-4 years. Sorry, I missed off. This is the best chance Star Wars has of doing something different. Now, I actually think this will do better over in the UK. I think this is going to be something they push in the TV BAFTAs, which is going to be really exciting.
The BAFTAs are going to be like filter rafters with this and House of the Dragon.
Put streaming, and this is it. And I think it's been exceptional to view. And this story arc for me is, as I said, it's one of the highlights of following Star Wars. I'd say the Disney era is maybe a polite term for like modern Star Wars. But listen, we're 5 months out from Celebration, and if I was the organisers, I'd be putting a screening of these 3 episodes right now. I would honestly say, was it 2016 when they did like a different film per night for people that wanted entertainment? If I was them, do Andor 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 8 to 10, 1 each night, 11 and 12, 6, 7 in somewhere. I would turn up for the prison screening, and that would be sensational.
Yeah,
it would just.
To be fair, though, actually, 5 put
months,
it on. Imagine the Eye. I mean, George, we know you've seen it, but come on, Dave and I can sit there and watch the Eye on a big screen as well. I mean, just phenomenal.
Yeah,
just 100%. Give me it all. This prison stuff's just been, but you're right, it's exceptional. 5 months of Celebration. I can't wait to see what we get. I think we're going to get quite a bit of Andor stuff around Celebration. I really do think it's going to be a big part of it because they're probably towards
filming.
The end of shooting when it comes around. I just think it's going to be a massive part of it.
I really hope that Lucasfilm don't drop the ball, that we know how well the celebrations are in America. I know I've been to one and 2019. We know this year they had all the Mandalorian stuff for people that went. You got to do some Andor stuff and not just have the cast turn up, not just drop a teaser or a trailer. Try and do something really different. Again, not saying just bring props, but you're at the XL, one of the biggest, expo arenas in the country. Is Easter Bank Holiday. No one's going to be here. Go convert one of the, I don't know what they call, they're not stages, they're numbered, aren't they? Like the halls. Go build a set from one of them or something. Like, we know Lucasfilm keep those sets. They take them down, they put them in storage. They're in the United Kingdom. From what I've been told from people that have been in there, it's literally at the Indiana Jones warehouse that it's just boxes and boxes and boxes. You never know what it is. Please go out there and make an effort, because this is something that I think a lot of people go into Celebration. I really think, and I'm going to phrase the next words carefully, I think amongst the Star Wars fan base that would likely be going to an event like Celebration, Andor might be deemed top of the TV list against The Mandalorian. Now, Mando starts in February, March, so I'm not going to make wild accusations, but I think
don't forget we've got Ahsoka and the Acolyte that are.
Well, they're not going to be there next year. I don't think we'll get any of them next year. I think maybe an Ahsoka teaser at Celebration, but I think Acolyte started filming this week, didn't it? So
yes, I'm secretly hyped for.
And this is it, and there's so many things scheduled in, but if you're Lucasfilm, you need to build a Andor now, and the beauty is it's locked in for 2 seasons, no more. Not enough time for them to say, people like this, let's make it 3 or 4 seasons. As much as I would love that, make 24 excellent episodes, and you'll have created a legacy within Star Wars to build off for whatever you want to do in the future. But yeah, it's a very weird tangent. Maybe there could be a really cool post-Andor video. Sorry, Dave.
No, I agree. I was just down the XL very recently to the Jurassic World exhibition at the XL, where it was built like that, where you had the different pieces, like you went through about 6 different rooms. You could absolutely build that part. That prison set should be there, like just different bits. Give us we could wander around, something like that. They've got the room. It's. I think you're right. It's a bit dropping the ball if they don't look at something like that for a Celebration.
No, definitely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So we are 5 months out from it. It's
gonna come around quick. It's next thing you know, it's gonna be 2023, which is scary. But I think what's that's gonna do, because it's been an amazing discussion. We've gone for over an hour. I think it's gonna round off tonight's review. So just quickly, final thoughts from every. Oh no, ignore me. We haven't spoken about next week, but final thoughts on this story arc, and then very quickly, if you want to talk about maybe what we might think might happen in the next 2 episodes. Dave,
I loved this arc. I think it's been some of the best, not only Star Wars television, for me, it's some of the best television that I've seen in a long, long time. It's just such a high bar. How they top that for 2 more episodes, I I don't know. It's going to have to be exceptional, but that's kind of what I now expect from the series.
Yep, I can't really add to that apart from bring it on. Just bring it on. And I'm gutted that there's not going to be another 4 series, just the one. Because if they, to be fair though, they can keep the 2, have it be this legacy of how well it's written, because the fatigue is a thing. And by the time you get down to 4 and 5, it'll lose some of that shine. They can't keep that level of awesomeness up from start to finish. I mean, they can, but it's very difficult to do, especially with the production budget and especially with our other projects like Ahsoka, like The Acolyte. I get it, but I'm happy that I'm disappointed, if that makes sense. Like, to know that it is limited to begin with, it's gutting to know we've only got 14 episodes left. And that's the even worse way. Look, we're 10 episodes in, we've only got 14 to go. It's like, oh crap, we're halfway through, it's nearly over. And yeah, that's my thoughts on these episodes. And for next week, you can bring Krennic Watch back. We haven't had the Death Troopers yet.
Something's going to happen next week. Yeah. There's going to be an Imperial reaction to the prison breakout, isn't there? There has to be an Imperial reaction. So if I'm going to quickly head into my thoughts for next week, because I don't want to... What's been beautiful about this series, and non-disrespectful, we've never really done predictions too much because we're enjoying the present so much. It's lovely to not look ahead. But taking what we're watching and for where the finale is going to go, I want to say it's the talk is it's a 2-part finale. Now, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that press were given episodes 8 to 10 out the blue. It wasn't something they were told they were going to be getting. This wasn't me included. This is just a lot of people I know. So a lot of people are tweeting, like, scheduled tweets at 8 in the morning, like, yeah, today's is the best. They haven't given out the finale, which I'm glad they haven't. So I think everyone's going to be going in cold. What I think will happen, I think we're going to have a big, and I think Andor's story and the core story of this season is going to all take place in Ferrix. But I think there's a massive Mon Mothma / Luthen revelation waiting to happen. I don't know what it's going to be, but I also think that for a series that's been so self-controlled, part of me wants to take the punt and say maybe there'll be a cliffhanger ending to push towards season 2. Or maybe something mega will happen to really kickstart. Because the worst that can happen is if we get some incredible cliffhanger, I have to wait like a year and a half, 2 years for season 2. But can you imagine the hype for season 2 off of that? And I just think it's been such an incredible thing to witness as a Star Wars fan. I just hope they really. My only real goal is that they stay on the consistent level they have for the last 10 episodes. And I think Tony Gilroy's got my backing. I think he knows what he's doing. And I still love the fact that Lucasfilm's got him right at the edge of his series. They've given him multiple of his own shows. He's going to get his own film eventually. Are we going to get the Rogue One TV universe? I don't know. But if he turns around like, my new series is called Urso, I'll be like, here we go. But yeah, Dave, any predictions?
No, to be honest, no. I have no idea how they're going to round out this series, of where they're going to leave it. You're right, we're going to get in Ferrix. There will be a battle of some kind. I think we might lose Marva, might be the thing. Cassian loses big in this, so he's lost both his parents and is an orphan by the time season 2 starts. That's my only real prediction, that she will be the character we'll lose. But yeah, I'm just so excited for it. I really am. I have just adored this series so far.
No, 100%. Phill, anything else?
Yep. So, Krennic maybe. Not joking. Yep. Actually, think we quite possibly could.
Logistically, there's a place for him. Logistically, there is a functional place for him.
In universe, it works well. Death Troopers, Ferrix, Marva, and I think Luthen. By the end of the finale, I think Luthen will go. I think because he's such a pivotal and important character, you start to question, where was he in X? And those are the conversations get a little tricky when you start to do prequels. Is where was this character during this period? And he has been phenomenal. It's a tough choice for me between Andy Serkis and Stellan Skarsgård, who you give the Emmy to, but the performances are worthy of that. And whether Luthen makes it to Series 2, he goes through Series 2, I don't think he'll survive that. I don't think he'll survive to the end. Personally, I think you'll get a very scarred Saw Gerrera by the end of the Series 2. You'll get the rebellion on its knees, but ready to rise up. You'll get an awful lot. But for finale, that's my thoughts there. And I don't want to predict more than that. The only thing I will say is I think we'll get an hour and 15 per episode. I think it'll be a little bit longer for both.
Interesting. I could see that. And it'll be interesting what does happen. We've got a quick comment, Martin. I'll go through. I know we're loving our episode. How's it going down general? Well, obviously, we had that fake report about the views, which the author then admitted a week later was all nonsense, which is annoying. Obviously, with streaming, we don't know how to measure views. There's no legal parameter. There's no box office reportings. You get the Nielsen chart, which only adds up minutes. So any series that's multiple seasons is ineffective in its value. From I would say the consensus from the people I follow, the people I know that watch it, they love it. The people I know that aren't necessarily Star Wars fans, that are more film fans or TV followers or critics and whatnot, they are also really enjoying this series. And I think this is not hidden gem, but certainly there's been more noise with this show in the last 2 weeks than probably the 8 weeks before it. And I would probably put that down to House of the Dragon finishing, Lord of the Rings finishing. A lot of people who maybe weren't on board at the beginning have caught up and are watching it. But I think anyone that's still sticking around episode 10 is going to be enjoying it. You'd be absolutely insane to be talking about, a series you dislike weekly for 10 episodes? Well, no, how many weeks we had? Eight weeks, because we got 1 to 3 together. And, I think even those crackpot, what are their names? I don't like bringing them up. Not Star Wars Theory, the worst ones like Geeks and Gamers and that. They're not talking about Andor because they're just too busy trying to talk about other things that they want to take down, which is kind of hilarious. But I think Andor's doing well. And I'm curious. And what's kind of a blessing, I would say, is that because season 2 starts so soon, there is no way for them to have a reaction to Andor and change the scripts and change the budgets and change the sets. I think it would have all been, this is locked in for November. This is going to happen. And then what if this is received great, then whatever happens in the future of Tony Gilroy is on Tony Gilroy to do what he would like to do. And I think I'm curious to show it to my dad, because I think once people are invested in the show, they'll be invested in the show. But I think you got to get through the first arc at least. You got to get through episode 3, and nothing you're in, and you're on board.
I've been watching it with my dad, similar, but he's now we've started watching it. We're on episode 4. We're about 5. We're about to get onto the eye and things. So I'm looking forward to showing him that. And he, after the first 2, he was hooked. First one, okay, getting into it, he was like, yeah, okay, let's watch the second one, and then. I mean, compared to Rebels, which he started, he was like, I'm not kind of feeling it. It's not the animation. And as soon as he watched this again, the writing was just like, so where's the next one? And it's just that good.
No, and this is it. And it's going to be interesting to see how many people catch it between seasons too. But that's going to do it for today's video. So thank you for everyone that's been commenting along with us on the live stream. Thank you both for taking time out to join me as always. And anyone that's watching it, maybe you're not watching it live, you're watching it later on. If you've got any comments, leave them down below. We'll reply to them. We hope.
Oh, all 3 of us are collecting issues. I think
We've had a Frozen George, yeah. So yes, if you have been enjoying this series and you are enjoying joining us, we will be back again for the episode next week. George is back. Look at that. There we go. You're okay.
It's the we had a blackout like the prison sequence. I've been trying to escape this household for years. I'm joking. No, listen, it's been amazing getting the conversation going. So if people have enjoyed this, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. Now, I'm just going to really quickly plug something else with Star Wars. I don't have any links to the place, which doesn't help. Obviously, we've got Andor. We've had Kenobi. We've had Mando, Boba Fett. There's a whole load of playlists on our YouTube homepage. So if you maybe join us as the years went by a little bit later, you can now find matching thumbnails, which is my OCD kicking in. A very pleasant Saturday evening spent just completely reading all the channel artwork, descriptions, everything like that, syncing it all up so nice and pristine. So have a look at them. If you want some Mandalorian discussions, they're there. That'll be back next year. There's going to be a lot more Star Wars stuff, and we're just gearing towards more Star Wars stuff coming in the future, because I'm enjoying Andor so much. I know it's going to end in 2 weeks. I need to get my brain going to know what series is coming next. And Bad Batch won't be weekly, but there will be a season 2 review when that is done and dusted. And yeah, if you want to find out about other videos, as I mentioned earlier, there's a few things happening. Get us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at @cinema_savvy, Facebook and elbow.com/cinema_savvy, a link to Redbubble in that description below. Next up, we've got Black Panther on Friday. Me and Tate will be on that. As I said, there's going to be a review for War of the Worlds, the original 50s one in 4K, a home media release. And if people enjoy this, please check out these videos. Let me know your thoughts on them. We've never really done them, but it looks like we're going to be starting to do them moving forward. So I'm happy to do stuff like that if you get your feedback. And yeah, And we're rounding out our other big series. What finishes the day before Andor is our Steven Spielberg retrospective, which is kind of beautiful timing and bonkers timing. But our West Side Story review is going to come out next Tuesday, the 15th of November. Ready Player One is up from yesterday. Reese and Charlie joined me for that one. That was a lovely discussion. And then following West Side Story, we've got the top 10 ranking video on the 22nd of November, which is gargantuan. Me and Tate are recording that tomorrow night. And there's a lot of really great people involved. But yeah, I don't have anything else to plug. I don't have anything else to say. I'm just going to say once again, thank you both for joining, because it's always a pleasure to talk stars with you. And for everyone that's commented along tonight, it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to spend a Wednesday evening. And that's going to do it. So take care. Thank you all for watching, and be sure to join us on the next one.